We just came out of an executive session on a personnel/legal matter. And I'll open this January meeting of the Shrewsbury Township Board of Supervisors. Welcome you all. We'll begin by standing and pledging to our flag. We pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
January, the second past Township is a reorganizational meeting, so we have a number of items we will cover. The agendas are back there, and if you can follow the agenda to see what I'm talking about. We'll begin by appointing a temporary chairman. I'll entertain a motion for a temporary chairman.
I motion that we name Paul Solomon as temporary chairman.
I'll second.
Any other any discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Aye.
No. What about Jet?
Said aye. The next item is to appoint a recording secretary. Recording secretary is the person on our staff that comes here and records the meetings. So I'll make the motion that we appoint or reappoint Wendy Brown as recording secretary.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Aye.
Now, item number.
Continue the
No
vote.
vote.
Continue the vote. Oh.
Aye.
The next item is organization of Board of Supervisors. First item under that is to select a permanent chairman.
I make the motion to appoint Paul.
For a second.
I'll second.
I'll call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye. No.
Aye.
What was Jeff's vote?
Aye. The next item is vice chairman. Is there a nomination for vice chairman?
I'll nominate Bill Cox.
I'll second that motion. I'll call for the vote.
Aye.
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 No.
Aye.
Okay. Item number 5. Organization/miscellaneous appointments. Todd, do you want to just kind of lead us through this? Because this should take a whole lot of time. So.
First item is resolution number 2015-01, which is the appointment of employees and setting the wages and benefits for 2015. You have in the resolution each position, the person that holds that position, and what the rate would be for 2015. And pay increases were based on the 2015 COLA, which is 1.7%, with the exception of one merit increase, and that was for Wendy Brown.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Chairman. Special in the executive session about funds. And you said what you were going to enforce, and I didn't get to see that.
Thank you.
No problem.
You're allowed, as you noticed from the, well, I think it's expressed in the agenda, you're allowed to record and you're allowed to both audio and video this meeting. But I would suggest that you should not focus on any one person. You should focus on the entire board.
Earl, are we all on your camera?
You absolutely are.
Thank you.
Otherwise, it
As you were all on in the last meeting.
Thank you. All right, getting back to our agenda.
And are you making a statement that you're recording the meeting?
I mentioned it to the recording secretary when I
Okay.
came in the board.
No, I'm just going to put this up because I don't feel like being stopped any longer. Make sure you get that on audio.
All right, let's move on. Resolution 01. Let's go on now. I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 01.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. We'll second. On, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
No. Aye. One no. 4 ayes, 1 no. All right. Next is Resolution 02. Todd?
The next resolution is for township appointments such as board solicitor, which is Tim Buck, our building codes official, zoning officer, Keith Hunnings, our engineer, Jeff Shu, with T.S. Davidson, right to know officer, myself, alternate sewage enforcement officer, zoning officers, Keith Hunnings, uniform construction code inspector, which is middle department agency, and our CPA firm, which is Hockenauer, Ernst, Smyser, and Berg.
So there are no changes from last year.
The only thing is the elimination of the alternate engineer who we've never used, and actually that individual is no longer with that firm.
We'll entertain any questions as we go through this. Okay, well, Resolution 02, we'll accept a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second? I'll second it. Go ahead, Bill Cox seconded it. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 5 ayes. Resolution 03, Todd?
This is just a formality every year. We have approximately 18 accounts, and it just lists the banking, financial institutions, accounts each of those accounts. We just reaffirm those each January.
All right, and you want to mention the names of the... About the individual necessarily.
People's Bank, Susquehanna Bank, and Pliggett, which is Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust.
Thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept those nominations.
So moved.
All right. Jeff Reynolds. We made the primary for the second. Any further discussion? All right, let's vote.
Aye.
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 5 ayes. 04.
4 is the appointment to various committees and boards.
Could you mention the names of not just of the boards, but also the people that are being nominated?
Ag Review Committee, which is a 1-year term, is Ben Burrows, Gilbert Manassi, Thomas Woodcraft. Ag Security Committee is a 1-year term, Ben Burrows, Ralph Perrone, Jeff Reynolds, Gilbert Manassi, Thomas Woodcraft. CBPRP Regional Committee, which is the Chesapeake Bay Protection Plan, which is a county program. Myself is the primary rep, Paul Solomon is the alternate rep. Emergency Management Coordinator, Earl Shuckman. Field Scheduler for the Parks, Andy Bobby. Local Government Advisory Committee, Susan Fox, representative. Paul Solomon, the alternate. Planning Commission term, a 4-year term, David Ashton. Planning Commission Secretary, Megan Matthews. Southern Regional Planning Commission, a 1-year term, myself as representative, Paul Solomon as the alternate. Transportation Coalition Committee representative would be Bill Cox, myself as the alternate. The Vacancy Board Chairman would be John Parrish. York Adams Tax Bureau, Susan Fox, representative, myself as the alternate. Zoning Hearing Board, a 3-year term, Lawrence Malone. And Zoning Hearing Board, 1-year term, which is the unexpired term, Dave Kilminster, Ralph Perrone.
Before we vote, are there any comments from the floor? All right, I'll call for a vote on these.
I'll make a motion to accept this list for resolution 2015-04.
I'll second it.
Aye.
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 No.
Aye.
And the final resolution 2015-05. Todd, this has to do with fees and so forth.
Yeah, this is various fees. Bear with me here.
It's a fairly long document. You want to summarize it somehow, or give the audience a sense of what we're doing?
Yeah. Actually, I have it up there on the screen just to give you. But it addresses the various zoning and building permit fees. What you'll see in red is what we're recommending to be added. And then what you see highlighted in yellow is just an explanation. Pennsylvania Uniform Construction Code is a state mandated fee that we put on each building permit. And that fee is forwarded on to the state. Here under subdivision land development, we call it pre-submittal general information meeting. Change the language here to match up with our subdivision land development ordinance, where they call it pre-application consultation. Sketch plan, we did not require any fees in the past. Proposed is a $75 fee, which I believe is a nominal fee. The sketch plan is optional. Developer is not required to submit a sketch plan. However, when a sketch plan is submitted, it does go to the township engineer as well as our zoning officer, so the township does incur some costs. And again, it's a nominal fee because that $75 will not cover.
But if they put it in the pre-application half-hour session and they present it to you there, just as a visual, why would you charge them for that? I mean,
Because the sketch plan goes to planning commission. So if they come to the pre-application consultation, they may have a sketch or something, but it's not going to go on the planning commission. The
well,
sketch plan does.
we've never charged for them before.
You're correct, we haven't.
We
That's
do it
why-
as a courtesy to our people.
Well,
I mean, they're already getting paid.
if there's a cost involved to the township, $75 is not an exceptional high fee. It doesn't necessarily cover all of our costs. In addition, the sketch plan is optional. It's not required. So, but you can vote according to what you feel is okay.
Again, this is the escrow account, and this is when the plan is actually submitted. Just change that language, as I had mentioned earlier, to comply with our subdivision land development ordinance. For a sketch plan, there would be no escrow fee because that just goes to staff and then planning. Zoning officer fee increased from $42 to $45, and that's based on the zoning officer's fee. Here under the Ag Review Committee, it was written report submission to the zoning in the previously Board of Supervisors and the zoning hearing board. And this language was changed to comply with the proposed zoning ordinance amendments that were sent up to York County Planning Commission to include the zoning officer, planning commission, and or the zoning hearing board. And the reason for that is under the zoning ordinance, it is the zoning officer who has the final say and the final decision as to where a home is situated in the ag zone.
May I interrupt, please? Our current zoning ordinance, which this fee schedule it references, the zoning ordinance in Article 4, Section 403, number 3A, number 5, on page 51 of the 2010 zoning ordinance, which exists right now, is the one we are under, specifically says that the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors, it says that the Ag Committee may provide advice and any recommendations to the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. That's how it currently reads, under the location of lots, that it is up to the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors to request the information from the Ag Review Committee, not the zoning officer. You can include the zoning officer if you want him to report. And the zoning hearing board is actually an entirely separate body from us, and it's a conflict of interest for them to be involved in any of our proceedings unless there is a hearing where somebody actually disagrees with our decision, because we, the supervisors, are the final determining vote on all and every plan that's brought before here.
Okay, you're talking about a subdivision plan,
Yeah.
a land development plan.
You're talking about the fee, but in here you've got all this written about where the reports are going to go. Final submission to the zoning officer, the planning commission, and you've taken out the board of supervisors, and you've added the hearing board, which is a totally separate entity from us. If you want to have the zoning officer added to who gets the report with the planning commission and the supervisors, I'm fine with that. But you don't send it to the zoning hearing board, which is entirely different. They're the only ones that can fight with us and give somebody else relief.
Let's
What's
back
your
up here a minute. This relates to the zoning ordinance, correct?
Correct, and it's a fee.
Okay. Now wait. Relates to the zoning ordinance. Who administers the zoning ordinance?
The zoning officer, but what does the zoning ordinance read?
Now let me finish.
Shut up.
The zoning officer is the party that's responsible for administering the zoning ordinance.
Correct.
It is the zoning officer, not the board, that says, yes, you can have a permit, or no, you cannot. Correct?
But this is for land subdivision. Go ahead, yeah, of course.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. The zoning officer, when in the ag zone, if someone comes to him and says, I want to put a home, at this particular location, the zoning officer can either make a decision on his own, which ultimately he will, or he can go to the ag review committee and ask them to do a review and make a recommendation. The zoning officer can also go to the planning commission, have them review the ag review committee recommendation, and get a recommendation from the planning commission. Even with all those recommendations, it ultimately goes back to the zoning officer to make that final decision. Now, if it comes to subdivision and land development, again, the plan goes first to staff for review, which includes the zoning officer. And if there's any question as to the location, before it goes to planning commission, he's going to ask for a recommendation from the ag review committee. And then that recommendation from staff, which will include the ag review committee recommendation, go to planning commission, and then ultimately come to to the board of supervisors. Now that's for subdivision and land development plans, okay? The zoning hearing board, where they come into play, is if the zoning officer makes a recommendation, or you come in and say, I want to put my home there, and the zoning officer says, no, I'm not going to issue a permit there. The applicant has the right to appeal the zoning officer's decision, and that appeal goes to the zoning hearing board. So the zoning hearing board is involved in that type of...
Only if there is a challenge
Correct.
to them. So
Correct.
why are you involving them when they are the only ones that can challenge us? They should not be involved.
Can I expedite this?
Yeah.
Should we just say, for example, suppose the zoning officer doesn't feel he needs to consult with the a review committee, so there's no report. The planning commission gets the plan from the staff, and they think they do.
Correct.
Should we just say that the zoning officer, the planning commission, the board of supervisors, or the zoning board of appeals, as needed, can ask for a report from the
I mean, the board can make that request, but my point is, if that request is made up front, it's going to ultimately reach you. But
Yes.
again, there's a process that we have in place, staff, planning commission, board.
I think the zoning officer would be the first person to ask, but
Yeah, I don't have a problem adding him in.
I think any one of those four entities can ask for a report if it doesn't exist.
Yeah, the board of supervisors,
If
we
the
are
zoning
involved
officer
in
doesn't
that
ask
decision.
for it, the planning commission doesn't ask for it, then the board of supervisors could ask for it. So any one of those four entities, as needed, could ask for that. If it
The board can ask for whatever they wish. That's
Yeah,
correct.
Correct, so don't strike us
we
out
just
of it.
change this though to say that indicate that all four entities could ask for a report. They review committee.
That's fine, but just when we get our comments back from your county planning commission, we're going to change what we just sent to them, because it does
Well,
not.
Well, you probably should
We
anyway.
know there might be a few items.
There's gonna be a lot more than this.
Again, the zoning officer would be the first one to,
Again, that's your call.
okay.
Why put all those hands in? This is ridiculous. This is absolutely.
Okay,
Our zoning ordinance reads differently than those.
Next next item is planning commission and board of supervisors fee. This was just added as a clarification. Anytime there's actually taken on a plan, it's charged $100. This is just a clarification. If it's an approval of a previously approved plan and it's not technically ready, and technically ready is defined down below, they're not charged that fee. But if it comes before the board for some further action and it is technically ready, then they would be charged. So that's just a point of clarification. This is just some housekeeping items here. These fees here are changed to reflect what's actual with the planning commission solicitor. And if I can back up, it's up above here. Actually, the township solicitor, which I believe the fee was 145 last year, their fee will be $150. It was 135, so it's going to be 150. So that will need to be changed. And let's see here. We just added this to the fee, so it's all in one place. This fee is established by ordinance number 2006-1, which is the soliciting, peddling, and canvassing fee of $10. And the last one is a new fee that we're proposing. This is for the stormwater management and operation and maintenance plan and agreement. We're proposing an application fee of $350, which includes a plan review by the township engineer of about $320, and then the recording of the O&M agreement, which is about $30. And the reason we're proposing this is our ordinance requires this plan, but this $350 is the average cost in 2014 for each of those plans. And again, each of those plans is related to some form of a development. And the staff does not believe it's appropriate for a general fund to pay for a developer's stormwater plan reviews. That should be the applicant's responsibility.
Thank you. Thank you
So
for
that's
that presentation. I'm going to make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2015-05. However, that we've changed, I'm going to amend it in the following way. That, let me just discuss this first. That if the zoning officer doesn't ask for a plan or advice from the ag review committee as far as the location of a law is concerned, then the planning commission could ask for it. But if it already exists, then none of the other entities can really ask for anything. But if it doesn't exist, then it comes to the planning commission. They can ask the committee for their comment. Can we amend it? Whatever way you want to amend it, that's how it should be.
Well, the board of supervisors should be able
Well,
to ask them. It's already in our zoning
I'm
ordinance
saying
that they're
that
the
any
ones
of
that
the
should.
entities, zoning hearing
They
board,
can,
the board of
yes.
supervisors, or the planning commission, can ask for that input if it doesn't exist. Okay? So with that amendment,
That's amendment.
are there any other amendments?
Yes, the fee for the solicitor.
Yes. Thank you, Jim. Want to add that? So, or am I skipping anything?
No, that's
What about the $75 fee?
I support that. Any comments on the second fee?
Supported. I'll second that motion.
Okay. Those two amendments, we're going to vote to approve or adopt resolution 05.
I vote aye.
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 That's the last of the resolutions. Thank God. Next item is a public hearing on the sign lot. I'll say what I'm here real quick. I know some of you are here for a very specific purpose. And item number 9 is public comment. So any of you who are here regarding the highway tax, we'll bring it up there. It won't be very long, we'll be able to discuss that, okay? How many of you are here regarding the highway tax? Okay, so you'll have a chance to present your thoughts to the board at that time. And also, I was remiss in not making a few things said part of our policy. When you do talk, we suggest strongly that you use the microphone and state your name and address. And also, I want to acknowledge the two gentlemen who are here from Susquehanna High School recorded this meeting. Thank them again for coming. It's a free service. Thank you very much. Okay, so I do want to introduce item number 6, the public hearing for the sign modification application. This is like a variance request. Is anybody here from the, come on up. This is made by, the People's Bank is making a request for a modification of our sign ordinance. And this gentleman represents People's Bank.
For signs for people's benefits.
You want to let this gentleman?
Yeah, actually, he's the applicant, so.
That's fine. Go right ahead, sir.
All right, I think this is our third meeting, correct? I believe so.
Yes, 2.3.
What we have is People's Bank is a opening actually this Friday over there at that new development section down at the southern end of town.
Would you tell them more specifically where this is?
It is at Mary Road and Sophia Drive.
It's with that big wall that's up there?
The Great Wall of
This is
Shrewsbury.
one of the, this
Yes.
That's what I've heard it called already.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
And
Christina Highlands.
excuse me. And the bank itself is in a very elevated position, and it's that first business past the restaurant up off the road. So one of the challenges was for a location for the sign. Now there's a location for the sign potentially up there at the beginning, but that's Messina Plaza's location. They've already placed a monument sign for the entrance.
so this is the lower portion of the area behind the big wall.
Yeah, like if Panera Bread was up here, People's Bank is,
And you have a separate lot there.
yes, it's a separate lot. Actually, the lot extends all the way to the corner, so one of our early discussions was placing a sign down low. The challenge of that would be that there's a thought that that's where you turn into the bank, so there's an opportunity to put the sign up high, but to do so because it's already 30 feet off the ground. We asked for some relief on the square footage. I think we're allowed 32 square feet. And, you know, the rendering that we have there takes it up to almost 4. I think the meeting we were in, they approved 40.
Yeah, they were looking for 48, ordinance allows 32, and the recommendation of the planning commission was up to 40.
Well, I know you have specific reasons for visibility for distance on signs. Do you feel 48 feet is probably the bare minimum that you will need for people to be able to see you from the traffic light across the street? Because I feel that you're correct by that.
One of the challenges was the minimum letter height is the challenge.
Right.
But during the recommendation in the last meeting, they felt that they wanted to stay as close to the ordinance as possible, and, you know, of course, we wanted the extra relief to go out.
Will 40 work for you? 40 square feet?
I think we can make the rendering as shown work. Of course, we'd always love more, but I think with what you're seeing there, I think with
We'd
that.
like to go with the planning commission recommendation, and that should make a very strong case to the contrary.
No, I believe that what,
You're okay
I
with
would
40?
say that would be our minimum relief, and I think it would satisfy the bank, so.
You may not have to stay a whole lot here. I think the board has read your application, and we'll find out.
All right.
I'm going to call for a vote to approve it. I'll make a motion to approve the modification as defined in the application for it. And this is not going on the wall, it's going above the wall.
It is, yeah, it's in the corner of the lot behind the guardrail.
Yeah, I want to make sure.
Yeah.
Because at one time you were talking about putting it on the wall.
Correct.
So,
It's not on the wall.
and I think I'm happy to rather have it up there and not, the wall is an attractive feature, I think. It's a matter of opinion. Okay, call for the vote.
I vote aye.
Should we have a second?
Did I have a second?
We have a
Oh.
second. I'll second.
Got a second now. Thank you, Dave. Glad you're here. All right, we have a
Vote aye.
motion and a second. We got 2 ayes, 3 ayes, 5 ayes. Thank you for coming. Moving on. Next item is approval of minutes of the meeting on December 3rd, which was last month's meeting, of course. You all have a copy, you had a chance to review the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve them as presented.
I second that.
I'll call for the vote.
I vote no.
No?
Yeah.
I make a motion, we accept them with Paul's and Sue's edits.
That's, okay, the edit was, I think they should know what the edit, talk about the edit. The edit, when we get the minutes a week or so, not quite a week, before the meeting, we go over them, we make suggestions. Todd puts them as edits in what we got initially, and then we're here tonight to discuss the minutes and include them with the edits or without the edits, or however. And so, the board members all know what the major edit is, and that's
Well, I
what.
want the public to know,
Okay,
absolutely.
all right. Go ahead,
Can
Todd.
I just comment on,
Please.
I don't think there was a second yet on that motion. But, if I understood correctly, Sue, your motion was to include Paul's edits as well as yours, which would
Correct.
include that table.
The chart.
Just a reminder, last month, the board did not take any action to include that chart. into
But the
official
motion was made with the chart to include.
Right,
I'm
that
not
was your
sure.
motion.
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
just clear-
understand why nobody wants the final figures for site plan sewer in the motion. That's kind of scary.
So my point is just to be aware that last month, there was no action by the board. It failed for a second to include that chart in the minutes.
No, my motion did include the chart, and the
No, I'm
motion
talking about-
failed. The
Right.
motion failed,
Correct.
but my motion was to accept these figures with the chart. That was my motion in the minutes. That motion didn't pass, but that was my motion.
Last month, correct.
Correct.
Right, yes. And that's what I'm saying, it failed. Your proposed amendment for this set of minutes is to
Include
include
the
what
chart that
failed.
was part of my motion.
Right.
But the motion, I made a motion, and you have to repeat what the motion was. That's what, when you make a motion, the motion has to be recorded,
Todd,
whether it fails or not.
There's
Correct, it was in the minutes that you made that
Correct.
motion.
there's only a handful of changes to the original draft of the minutes. Some of them are just to make things a
The
little
vast
clearer.
majority of them are.
Minor clarification, they're not
But
substantive. Can you go through the ones that are substantive, and we'll prove them one by one?
no,
No?
just
Hang on, that's good, that's good.
Let's just
That's
either
good
do it or
success.
not do
Well,
it. Be here all night.
but I mean, hang on a minute. I know that some people may want not to include yours.
Whatever, if
Some may want, so how can we?
my chart, all my chart does is delineate
Okay.
all the expenses for sites, land, sewer project 1 and 2. Okay, we've never had a final report. I have put a final report together from all the information that I've gathered from Todd Ziegler and the files. All I want to do is have those final figures in the motion, so 20 years from now, if somebody goes back, they can see what happened with sites, land, sewer. If the board wants to make a motion to have Todd Ziegler present the final figures with a report that he wants to do, that's fine with me. But there's never been any final reports on sites, land, sewer project 1 and 2, the costs,
What's the,
blah, blah, blah.
excuse me.
And that's all I wanted it in there for.
What's the motion we have before us? We don't have a second for that.
To accept the minutes with Paul's edits and Sue's edits.
Is there a second? I'll second it, just to get some discussion going here,
We
apparently.
already have discussion.
Well, any further discussion?
Well, absolutely, yeah. This board's not gonna put out what you're deleting. Once again, I'm gonna have the minutes reflect what the board is deleting.
You're right.
Absolutely. Long before, since I was a board member, the minutes reflected as such. Our staff in the office put the minutes together, and they were always approved. My last statement that I read at the, you don't need that. My last statement at the last township I read is being completely deleted from the minutes, which has never happened. As a chairman, excuse me, I'm speaking.
I'm saying,
When you want to speak, let me finish my statement. You had a chance, and I'll start, and you can
what you
finish.
said wasn't true.
So, excuse, oh, you're going to be the judge and jury again?
The first part of it is definition.
No. Right where I started reading my letter is where it was deleted. So I said, at the last township meeting, so on, and that's where it was started. So let's call a spade a spade. So my entire statement, selected board members want this statement removed from the minutes, which has never happened in this township. As the chairman stated during executive session, you know, he wants to start out a new year.
Executive session
Well, you,
stays executive session.
okay, but you want to start out a new year, is what you stated. I don't see anything wrong with that. That's what you said. But this happened in December. My statement happened in December. And several board members are conveniently wanting to take my statement out of the minutes, which has never happened in this township.
Part of
The
your
facts
statement.
that,
Part of your statement.
the fact that this board has never once asked me what transpired to me several years ago in this township, that they're not willing to help a supervisor, and they want to squash this. The fact that I have been verbally, emotionally, and sexually harassed, and this is what is being removed from the minutes, is absolutely outrageous. So this has never happened before, and it should not happen now. And the fact that this board is going to sit there and do that, not protect one in the room, but the fact that, for lack of a better word, as they shared with me, a personal friend of theirs that has done this to me, and that they're going to remove from the minutes, is absolutely outrageous that this is going to be done to me. That we're just going to squash this and make this whole issue go away, which is not going to happen. And I promise this board, this will not happen. The fact that you people allowed this, and I put out not only that I was verbally sexually harassed, I was run off the road, I've been stalked, I've been followed. That is, even in this gentleman's website, that they've hired a private investigator, which is not enough. But now we're going to remove the minutes. But now we're going to remove the minutes to protect this individual that has been stalking me in a creepy sense. Not only that, but trying to clean up the township building and calling the cops on me for trying to clean up this place and make it look like something is outrageous. So if this board chooses to do that, that's okay. But I'm going to follow the process and follow the guidelines and move forward with this issue, the fact that you're removing this from the minutes. It is on those minutes for these young gentlemen that are on the cameras, and I still want that to be posted. Because this is outrageous that a board member can be harassed like this, and this board's going to squash it, make it like it never happens. Now I'm done.
We're not squashing it. It's a legal matter.
These are strong allegations, okay? And they're
Correct, and there's strong allegations were made over 2 years ago by my ex-husband at this meeting, and the board never did anything to get rid of those minutes because they were entertained by it. The fact that this is a personal friend of numerous board members, that now they want this to go away, you can't pick and choose what you want to put in the minutes and what you can't put in the
That
minutes.
was not the board.
It's
enough. It's enough of
What do you
this.
mean it's enough?
It's enough of
It's enough when you don't want to hear the truth, Mr. Solomon.
Make your comment.
It's a fact that...
You're out of order.
No, I'm not out of order.
I'm going to suspend the meeting.
You can suspend the meeting all you want
You quiet
to.
down.
You can suspend the meeting all you want
You're
to,
out
but
of
the
order.
fact that those minutes were not changed when I was harassed and those statements were made at that meeting, the majority of the board allowed them in the minutes. Now that it doesn't work for your own personal friends, you people want to take this away. And you're okay with one of your board members being sexually harassed, and you don't want the public knowing about it. Since when are you the judge and jury of this board? Any of you people, you should be ashamed of yourselves to allow this to happen to a woman. You should be ashamed of yourselves to allow this to happen to somebody. And we're going to squash it and make it go away. What's the matter with you people?
Where do you reside?
I'm not done.
Where do you reside, Cindy? Where do you reside?
Sue, you're out of order.
I know.
we don't have any
Shut her up.
criminal allegations here, no civil allegations.
We spoke about that behind closed doors, that there's documentation, and if this board wants it, you're going to get it.
That's up to you. You have that right.
I think until that time, I don't think it's township business, okay? Until
What's
the
that say to
allegations
the
are
residents of this municipality? That this board's going to be judge and jury of what they choose to put in the minutes and not put in the minutes.
minutes.
You should be embarrassed of yourselves to do this to somebody. How dare you? How dare you do this to somebody?
Tell me what you're doing.
At the moment,
I would like us to consider another motion, okay?
did somebody find this funny?
Hilarious.
Unbelievable.
Bill,
More friends.
We have to take back the
More
first.
friends.
Well, we're still in discussion here. I would like the board to consider a motion that has no bearing on the chart that the Sioux Fox would like to have have added to the minutes. Okay? I would like to consider a motion where Supervisor DeLeon's comments that were made in December during the supervisor comments section be temporarily withheld from the minutes on record until her allegations are proven to have merit in a court of law, civil or criminal. And I'd like them to be withheld from the written and the video minutes until that time.
You made a motion, you made it.
That's a suggestion I would like to make a motion on.
And how about Sue's chart?
Now,
We
he
made a
said to
comment.
take my charge.
I would, if we need to discuss that further, I would not like it tied to this. They're two totally separate,
They can be totally separate
If you
issues.
don't
They
mind.
can be.
Okay,
That's
I'll
So
correct.
I get two totally
I'll second
separate
that.
answers
That's-
also.
I will second your motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, there was a first and second on Sue's motion,
We have to think that.
so you should take that vote. So if you're not in favor, you have to vote no. If you're in favor of including her chart, you
We
have to
can
vote
withdraw.
But you do
that.
need to,
We can withdraw that.
if the person made the
I
first
can
and
withdraw that
second-
motion at this time.
Okay. Bill, you have a new motion. Repeat it. Well, you made it.
We know what it
Wait a
says.
minute, you
Okay.
got-
I'll make the official motion. I'd like to make a motion that Supervisor DeLeon's comments made during Supervisor's comments section at December's meeting be temporarily withheld from the minutes on record until her allegations are proven to have merit in a court of civil or criminal law.
Sue second. Okay, that's your motion. Sue, she seconded that motion.
And the written and the video.
Yes, I'd like that to pertain to written and video.
And the video that's on.
That's consistent. Anything else? Okay, I'm going to call for the vote.
Aye.
Bill,
I vote aye.
Stu votes aye. I vote aye.
No.
No.
All right, the next motion would be on Sue's chart. I'll make the motion that we accept that edit along with all the other minor edits in the motion.
I'll second that.
Yeah, all the other minor edits involving the,
There's no reason why the chart shouldn't be in there for the
okay,
people to know.
you know,
Everybody's had plenty of time.
I think you don't have to say anything else.
Okay.
We all know what it is. So we have a motion and a second.
I vote no.
Sue?
Yes?
Yes.
Waiting for you to blow your
I
next.
voted
You said
yes.
yes.
Okay, no.
No.
Fail.
Now, I'd like to, for the
Okay.
people to ask the question, would you like the final numbers of the Siteland Sewer Project 1 and 2? Would you like the information on what it costs?
Okay, Sue.
We're just going
The
to.
board made a decision.
Yeah, I understand.
Make a comment, but at the
I don't know
comment
what's
time.
so
Okay, I know,
weird
I
about
mean, the
that.
board made a decision,
Yeah.
weird or otherwise, all right? All right, moving on. That takes care of the minutes.
It says, the treasurer's report says.
Treasurer's report. I'll step. Yeah,
What's preliminary?
I do that every January because December's
Okay.
books are not closed out.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report for December.
I'll second.
I vote aye.
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 5 ayes. Okay, public comment. I remind everybody, you can speak on any subject, wait a minute, sir. I would like to have you sit up here and speak into the microphone, if you would, please, and state your name and address. So, who's going to start us off? Sir, you got your hand up back there?
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening to the board, and thank you for returning the call. I'm here about the hydrant tax that you passed last month, at December 3rd.
Please state your name.
Wayne Bryant. I'm the president of our association, the Villas of Shrewsbury. After a little research on with Todd's help, our community recognizes that the board did have the legal authority to pass the hydrant tax because of the Second Class Township Act, Article 1802. We recognize that, but we think the tax is unjust because it only affects 28% of the residents or the properties of the township. And by the own testimony that the board presented, the fire chief and so forth, that it affects probably the majority of the community, not 100%. So we're asking that the board revisit this and appeal that decision. That's our request. In rebuttal on some of the issues that were raised during that meeting, one of the board members mentioned a pond, and they felt that they shouldn't be charged a fee because they have a pond and they're not serviced by the hydrants. I can understand that position. But the board should also recognize that if you go along with that theory, and what about school taxes? There are a number of residents in our own community that we don't have students in the school. So if you look at that position, you say, well, since I don't have students in the school, why should I pay the school tax? There's a fallacy in that thinking, I think. So specifically in our community, the township does not provide snow removal services or road services to our community, although we pay the same rate tax that every other citizen in the township pays. So if you enact what you've already enacted and passed, this ordinance, I will support our community coming forward to the board and asking to have some relief in this matter, either by taxes, relief by taxes, or reimburse us for the cost of snow removal this year. But for 2014, we paid $17,000 just for snow removal in our community. So, or again, have some repeal, lower our mill rate for our community, because the same would apply, that we are not getting services that the rest of the township gets. And I appreciate you giving me time for my thoughts.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Now, that's a good introduction. I know a lot of people here want to talk about this same matter. I'm going to ask our manager, Ron Ziegler, to give a quick overview as to, so everybody knows what the background is. So when you speak, you have a background already in place for you, and you can jump on that.
I have a quick question, though I want to ask.
Go ahead.
After the discounts that you spoke, Skip, for the insurance, if my calculations that I figured out are accurate, it's about $2 a month is what these residents are paying, correct? Is my calculations right?
When you say discounts, are you talking about insurance?
Correct, I said the insurance discount, but just ballpark, I was figuring about $2 a month is what it's gonna cost for this fire hydrant.
On
Tax, am I not-
$203,000.
I'm not
That's-
speaking
That's
to you.
the average.
That's the average, that's what I thought, $2 a month, okay, thank you. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Todd, do you want to spend a minute or two and just give us an overview? I think you did some more research since our last meeting.
Yeah, well, first of all, give everyone a background. We received a monthly invoice from York Water Company for fire hydrant rental. And we receive a quarterly invoice from Glen Rock Water Authority for fire hydrant rental for those fire hydrants that are located within Shrewsbury Township. That's approximately $18,500 to $19,000 a year. In past years, that's been paid out of the general fund. The board, in the past, has had a policy that the users or the significant users pay those costs. One example that the township has, and I believe may have been in place since the 1970s actually, is, and I don't know if there's anyone in this audience that's affected by it, but we have a housing development that has street lights. Again, by theory, every person in the township has the possibility to benefit from those street lights as they travel down those streets. However, those residents pay a street light tax, and that tax ranges from, and the tax is based on road frontage. So the lowest tax is $28 a year for a street light. The highest one, which is for the poor soul that lives on a corner lot, is paying $152 a year, streetlight tax. So the fire hydrant tax is being viewed, or is viewed, very similar to that as that of the streetlights and how we handle that here in the township. One thing I know since the last meeting, I've heard some comments, I heard some comments during the meeting regarding taxes. here in the township. And I just want to bring this up just to make folks aware, because I'm not sure everyone's aware of this. This is based on the 2015 budget, and I'm talking only about general fund taxes. Real estate taxes, we're expected
Justin,
to...
will you explain what monies go into the general fund? The three units, maybe you have it up.
Yeah, that's what these are. Yeah.
Excuse me.
The first significant one is the real estate tax, which is .074 mils. We expect township-wide to generate $42,000. If you're an employed household, and I'm basing this on a family of two, your real estate tax, which is based on the 203,502, which is the same assessment that we're using for the fire hydrant tax, you're paying Shrewsbury Township $15 in real estate taxes out of that 42,000 that we generate. Same with the retired couple, $15. Just for comparison's sake, I wanted to show you that for the same home assessment, you're paying York County $910 and Southern School District $3,651 in comparison to Shrewsbury Township's $15. Again, per capita tax, general fund tax, overall we generate about $19,000. An employed household or retired household, family of two, you'll each pay about $10 into that $19,000. If you're retired and have no earned income, you pay nothing in earned income tax. If you're a household of two, the median household income was $79,717, and I see that cut that off, but that was the 2010 census. So in total, an annual, a working household would pay about $424 toward our $906,000 in general fund taxes, and a retired household would pay about $25 into the $906,000. As you can see, our most significant earnings, income comes from the earned income tax. The other thing I wanted to share is in 2015, there are other fire hydrant taxes in York County. These are the municipalities that charge those taxes. These two are flat fees. The next 7 are based on a millage rate. And again, I'm basing this on that 203,502, which is the average assessment for Shrewsbury Township. I use that assessment so you could see that if it was .09 mils, it would be 1832. We're right about in the middle at 2442. And if you go to the high end, Newberry Township is .30 mils. You would pay a fire hydrant tax of $61. I did speak to, I have on charts. I did speak to our insurance carrier, and I asked them how insurance companies handle hydrants and fire companies. They could not give me any specific numbers simply because they would have to go to an adjuster and they'd have to know dollar values and so forth. But what was explained to me was that the insurance companies use what they call the insurance services offices, and they develop these protection classes. And the protection classes are determined how close you are to a fire hydrant, and they typically use a minimum distance of 1,000 feet, and or how close you are to the fire department. And typically they use if you're within 5 miles. If you have one or the other or both, you're in a lower rate classification, which results in a lower premium. And I explained to them, the insurance agent, what our proposed rate was and so forth, and I asked her if she had any idea based on a home at this assessment, and she said she didn't know an exact number, but she said, I can assure you that they're getting more than $24 in an insurance premium credit. And the only other thing I wanted to just share with some folks, I don't know if you can see this very well, but if you see this heavy black line, I'm going up around here, that's the perimeters of Shrewsbury Township. Now within Shrewsbury Township, we surround Glenrock Borough right here. We surround Shrewsbury Borough right in this area. Railroad Borough is in here, and we surround New Freedom Borough. I know at the last meeting, there was statements that the belief was that if there's a fire pretty much anywhere in the township, that the fire companies are going to tie into the hydrants that are being taxed. What you see highlighted in blue are the parcels that would be taxed under the fire hydrant tax. So you can see there's many areas here within Shrewsbury Township that are really not that close to those areas where those hydrants are within Shrewsbury Township. Again, I don't know if the fire chief is here and if he wishes to speak, but I think pretty much common sense and my personal experience, particularly once you get over in this area here, you know, if you're going to divide the line there between, you're looking at a pretty large segment that if they need water and they're going to go to a fire hydrant, they're not going to come here to this area or this area. They're going to go to a hydrant, but they're going to go to New Freedom Borough, they're going to go to Railroad Borough, or they're going to go to Shrewsbury Borough. Now, granted, if they're down in this area, sure, they may go to a fire hydrant. But to say that the entire township would be tapping into those, I don't believe that's a fair assessment. But that's pretty much an overview.
Thank you very much. Call for next speaker. Yes, come on up, sir.
Good evening, my name is Edward McLaurin. I live at 208 Prospect Circle. I do want to reiterate what was said. I think this is unfair. If you're going to tax everyone within 780 feet, you need to tax everyone that hydrant reaches.
If I can...
Okay, let me finish.
Okay, sure.
Number two, the argument that you got from this insurance person who has no statistics stated, as you stated, to back up her statement that she knows what we may be paying seems to me to be erroneous. You said that.
Okay.
Okay. And I think that the argument that in 1970 or 1907, we imposed some erroneous, wrong policy that we now want to back up with another policy that's erroneous and bad does not equate to a solid argument to me. Charging people for lights because the light is next to their house is ridiculous. The hydrant is in front of my house. I get no extra benefit than anybody else that hydrant reaches. As a matter of fact, I have a detriment because folk can't park in front of it. Thank you for hearing me. I hope you will reconsider.
Thank you.
If I may address his comment about everyone that the hydrant reaches. Under the state law, the state legislature establishes what townships can and cannot do here by the second-class township code. And we're simply following the maximum that we are allowed to, by law, tax anyone is within 780 feet. Shrewsbury Township doesn't have the authority to extend it beyond that. That's up to the state
Then you
legislature.
shouldn't tax any of us if you can't tax all of us.
All right, anybody else want to talk on it? Go on.
I'm Tony Aberback from 273 Prospect Circle. I have written my talk out so that I don't forget anything. But thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to speak this week. As you know, I sent a letter concerning the special hydrant tax, and I know you received and you read it. I want to thank Mr. Solomon for taking into consideration and recognizing the concerns of the community, and you were asking to hold off on the vote until further discussion with the board. However, the motion was made by Ms. De Leon to go ahead with the vote. And I want to thank very much Mr. Solomon and Ms. Fox for voting against this tax, even though you have a pond. I believe that the decision that was made at the December meeting was hastily made with very minimal discussion. In checking the board minutes, I went all the way back to January of 2012. There was no record of any discussion on this tax, including your October budget meeting minutes. And then suddenly it just appeared on the December agenda, December 3rd agenda. You declared at the last meeting that you were not going to raise taxes, and yet you created this new special tax, hydrant tax, for 810 properties. At the December meeting, there was no discussion as to why this tax was created. The only thing I heard was Mr. Renaud saying, I own a farm and I pay a lot of taxes and I own a pond, so why should I pay for a hydrant tax? Ms. De Leon says, by not passing this tax, we're going to mess up the budget. So in declaring that there was not to be a community-wide increase in taxes towards this general fund, you withdrew $172,000 over this $2 million reserve that you have. But in 2015 budget, between the revenues and the expenditures, that Seitzlin and the Pine Street Sewer District project, it's going to have a deficit of about $21,000 at the end of the year. So my question is, why is the township paying for the deficit instead of increasing the revenue from whoever is benefiting from that sewer project? Because it appears to me that you're making this deficit up, you're making up this deficit by receiving this $20,000 on the special hydrant tax, which is being assessed at 810 properties, when in the past, you have always taken it out of the general fund. I know Mr. Ziegler stated that only 28% of the properties are served by fire hydrants at 780 feet. The fire chief, of course, when he was here, stated they can run them up to 2,000 feet from a fire hydrant. The fire hydrant is their first preference. And I know you were over in the southern township communities, over where Strawberry Road is, and I know they don't have any fire hydrants, but they would receive their water, I guess, from the hydrants that would be located on Main Street. I want to also thank former Supervisor Earl Sheckman, who also stated that evening that the hydrant tax was always taken out of the general fund because it had benefited the entire community and the township. And at this point, I feel you are now dividing the township and the community by, putting this tax on us.
We're doing what, Susie? We're doing what?
You're dividing us, you're dividing the community. And I checked my insurance policy. I do not receive any discount, which seems to be the thing on my insurance as far as...
It's a different rate class. It's like on your automobile policy, if you drive 1 to 3 miles to work, your rate is a little lower than if you drive 3 to 5.
Right,
So it's a built-in rate, it's just the rate is a little bit less.
Okay, well, I didn't see it specifically. I see it saying I have these smoke detectors and I have a security system, because there's nothing there for fire hydrants. Now, before you answer my question on, why you're not going to be, like I said, increasing the revenue on those people from the sewer project, I have one more thing to say. According to that PA second-class township code, which was section 1802, it said the board may assess the fire protection on all properties whether they are not exempt from taxation by existing law within that 780 feet. Well, I received that list of the assessed properties from you, and I noticed that not all the properties are being assessed. I think there was Grace Fellowship Church was not on there. There was the Lutheran Retirement Home, it's not on there, that Keystone Child's Care, the YMCA, and why haven't they not been included? Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I'm going to respond to the last question.
I guess, to answer your first question regarding Sitesland, you talk about the $21,000 deficit for 2015. If you look, the fund balance beginning January 1 is $55,000. We'll generate approximately $44,000 or quarterly income. The loan repayment is $65,000, which leaves us a fund balance of around $33,500 at the end of the year. So there is a deficit of revenue versus expenditures in 2015, but not in that fund in general. That fund, as you see, I guess you saw where there's like liquid fuels, recreation.
Right, I was looking
sewer,
at this sheet right here,
correct,
where I
correct.
see the deficit is 21,000 for that project. You're only taking in a revenue of 44,000, but the expenditures are going to be 65,000.
That is correct for 2015.
I'm thinking, by looking at this, with you bringing in $19,900 on the fire hydrant tax, that's going to offset that 21.
That is not correct.
Okay, that's
No, because if you look at each of those headings, the streetlight fund, special fire hydrant, special fire tax, recreation, liquid fuels, those are all segregated for a specific purpose. Under state law, we cannot commingle funds. So we cannot collect money, say, from Sitesland to pay the electric bill at the municipal building. We cannot take that special fire tax that goes to the fire companies. We can't take that money and use it to pave a road. It's against state law. That's why there's specific funds, and we cannot take money from the general fund and put into there. Now, if the township was ever in a position they wanted to borrow money, they can do that, but they need to do it in the form of a resolution. They need to state the amount, when they're going to pay it back to that fund, and what the interest rate will be. You can't just nilly-willy shuffle that money around. So, and regarding Pine Street and Sitesland, as you mentioned, yes, there's a deficit, but we also have four properties, I think, that we have liens against, outstanding of $88,000, which we'll have to deal with at some point.
And in 2012, I believe it was, and in 13, we had several supervisors, some of which are not included on this board here, that voted to not charge Sitesland Sewer $48,800 some of their project cost to their so that is part that I feel, from all the records that I have written, I've seen, that the township absorbed the cost of that project for those 25 residents.
That was an anomaly. We've never done that in the past for any of the 4 or 5 developments that we provided sewer for. They paid their own fare.
Yeah, the sewer projects always pay their own
With this
fare.
one exception, we don't want to back into
Yeah,
that.
get
It's
into
a
that.
fact that, anything else you want to add?
I think you have one other question.
So then why was this tax created then?
I don't know.
So that's, since it's not having anything to do with the deficit. Like I said, you only mentioned because you were going to mess up the budget or you had a pond. Why was it created? Because that was not specified at the last meeting.
I think it was discussed
It was actually discussed in 2 budget
as part of the
meetings.
budget meeting, and maybe it wasn't
This
included.
past one and also the one back in October of 2013.
There was some
When it
discussion,
first
but
began.
it may not be apparent from the minutes, I don't know, but it was discussed.
I think it was, if I can, because I think you commented on it 1 or 2 meetings, correct, Dave? So I know it was discussed.
Okay, well, that-
It was brought up, but it wasn't.
Well,
It wasn't discussed.
it wasn't a secret.
So what's the answer?
Maybe it was to some people, but
Can I have the answer, please?
I don't know why it was one of the.
The answer, I thought and I apologize, I thought I answered it earlier, was that just like with the street lights, with sewer and so forth, those that benefit most from it, it's basically a user fee. Because as I had shown on this map, When you get out into these rural areas, Shrewsbury Township is paying a hydrant tax for this area, this area, and this area. And these areas are the areas that are going to benefit most from the added fire protection with the fire hydrants. These areas out here are not going to benefit, this area in particular is not going to benefit from the fire hydrant fees that it pays to York Water and Glen Rock Water Authority. Because if they do need to go to a hydrant, they're not going to these systems that the township's paid for. They're going to go to Railroad or New Freedom, or even, this area, they'll go to Glen Rock Borough first.
Are there any comments? Any other comments on the subject?
I just would like to challenge Todd on that. This is the first time that this has been proposed. In the past, like even in your newsletter, you say that this was paid out of the general fund, meaning it was paid by all the residents in the past. The question is, why did you change that? And we haven't heard an answer.
Well, you do say, but, well, it's a user fee, and let me say this. I didn't support the $24 per average household. I supported $12. That was, I thought, be more equitable throughout the township, but I'm not necessarily not supporting the $24, to be honest with you. I believe that, or the average cost to a homeowner, I believe user fees do make sense. This was an agricultural, and still is, strong agricultural community. And we want to maintain it as such. I think we all would agree with it. If we lost our agricultural, if we lost our farms, it would be a entirely different township. More traffic, more cost, a whole bunch of costs, more crime. But I just want to spend a second and quote a report that was done about the year 2000. It was done by the York, it was paid for by the York Foundation on the South Central Assembly. This is kind of revealing in a way. It says, it's summarized by saying, this is based on the year 2000. For every $1 revenue generated by a residential property in Shrewsbury Township, $1.23 was spent to provide services. For every $1 received from commercial, business, and agricultural units or assessed property, they got approximately $17 in services. So there's a big difference there. So, you talk about taxes are unfair no matter how you try to minimize it, they're generally unfair. So basically what this says is that the farming community and the industrial commercials are subsidizing all the residential. And so we can, there's all different ways to turn and twist this, but I don't think it's unreasonable to have a tax on fire hydrants to those who benefit most from them. I just question the amount. But I think as a board member, if the majority of the board supports something, I'm not going to disagree with it as a matter of policy on my part. Make the record clear.
Yeah, I understand.
I appreciate your kind words.
Now, as far as some of the other properties that have not been included in that,
Yes.
with the list that I have, it doesn't include
The tax exempt.
all of the, pardon me?
You're talking about the tax exempt, you mentioned the church.
Well, we had some churches in there, but I didn't see Grace Fellowship Church as listing as one of the places, or the Lutheran Retirement Home, the Keystone Care, and YMCA. I mean, these are places I didn't see in that 810 that you sent me.
Todd, could you?
I don't have a list in front of me. If you can email me the ones you believe are missing, we'll certainly look into it.
You have a fair question. Todd will respond to you and to all of us in regard to your question as to why some weren't included. All right? Earl. We're going to move on then after you speak.
Okay, Earl Shipman, Thistles Church Road. On this hydrant tax, if you look at it, there's quite a few properties that aren't included. Tony had mentioned the church, Grace Fellowship Church, which is right behind, it's at the old Kmart Plaza. That's not included in there. And according to the rules of the state law, it says that even if you're exempt, you're not exempt from this. Shrewsbury Borough, they have a water, their water authority has a parcel that's on the list. So they should be paying. And there's half, and I'm a little confused because there's only half of the Walmart Plaza that is included. The entire Walmart Plaza isn't included. And I can see you cannot use the fire hydrants in front of the Walmart because I assume that they are borough hydrants. So you can't use that for a measurement. However, right across the street is a hydrant for Messina, the shopping center. There's a hydrant right there, and if you take 780 feet, it incorporates McDonald's and all of that. But mainly on this thing, what doesn't seem to be fair is Southern Farms. Southern Farms has hydrants and water is provided by Shrewsbury Borough. And Shrewsbury Borough does not charge rental because they incorporate that into the fees that the homeowners pay for their water. So these homes are getting charged twice, if you look at it that way. They're getting charged by their water provider, which is Shrewsbury Borough, and they're getting charged the new hydrant tax. And there's probably around 100 of those folks that are being, in a way, double charged. And then there are quite a few parcels that aren't on the list that Tony had. There's parcels, our own parcel, the Township's parcel in Strawberry Fields. That should be included, the Township Park, but that's not on the list. And all the homes around there, they should be on the list. Because if you take the measurement from Windy Hill, the hydrant on Windy Hill, that incorporates the 780 feet. So I guess the biggest issue I have is looking at what is missing and then technically looking at the verbiage in the ordinance. It says all. I don't know if it creates a district. I couldn't find that. To only include the York Water and Glen Rock. So I don't know if that includes a district there or what the deal is.
Ned, you said Southern Farms is being charged, would be charged twice.
Yes.
But yet you also said Shrewsbury Borough does not charge a rental fee to those folks.
No. Shrewsbury Borough does not charge a rental fee to the township.
Correct.
The fee for that is incorporated in those folks' water bill.
In their bill.
But it's not segregated as
It
a
is
hydrant.
not segregated as a hydrant tax.
Part of their calculation, right?
Yes.
Okay. Todd, anything else to add?
No, I don't
wrap up. Dave?
Dave James, Star Slates. I checked with my insurance agent, and he said I will not get a reduction in my rates. Like Jeff, we have 2 lakes down there. Fire department's drawing water many a times for the whole township on that side. Todd's thing back to 25-hour taxes. As far as I'm concerned, trash collection fees should be in there. That should be a tax. That goes up every 3 years. So we are paying more than 25 hours a year regardless.
No, but I was only talking about general fund taxes.
Well, if that was in general funds like most normal places, it would be more money. There are other taxes we're paying that you're not talking about.
So I would suggest that you take into consideration what you heard here tonight, that the tax is in place.
What's Todd have to put in consideration? This board made a vote. I mean, what's that have to do with
No,
that?
no, the vote stands, the tax stands for this year.
Correct.
Okay, we all understand that, but if we could correct any errors for this year or for next year, we'll do it based on information we got from several citizens. And we'll get back to those several citizens.
You're talking about the parcels that they're.
The omissions.
The omissions,
The omissions.
some of the double
And
taxation.
the list was generated through GIS
Yeah.
with The,
Who's GIS, ours?
yes, yeah.
So,
And the information as far as the latitude and longitude of the hydrants was provided by local water company.
but I think you're tuned, if you're forwarded information which raises questions, you'll look at it
Absolutely.
and respond back to the person that gave it to you, all right? So, one more.
One more.
Yeah, one more. Leonard, yeah.
Mike Lucas, 229 Prospect Parkway. Just want to ask a question. Do any of our taxes at all support any of the roads around the township? Do any of our taxes support them?
We have 70 miles of roads.
All the roads.
And
Do any of our taxes support any of the lights around the township that are in place?
Traffic signals?
traffic signals
Street lights, traffic signals, all of them?
No, the street lights, we tax as property owners.
We don't, none of our taxes
No
are
taxes go toward the
put
street.
toward those. What about the street lights, the stop lights?
Stop lights, that's paid out of general fund.
we don't have money to serve all those, thank God.
And there's no way any of the people in our township could ever benefit from our fire hydrants.
You're saying no one?
Is that anyone in the requirements of the township would ever benefit from our hydrants?
We benefit from the people that pay for the lights, that not everybody is taxed for that.
There are people outside of the 780 feet that benefit from the fire hydrants.
Right.
Just as the people outside of the lights, we benefit from them, that they pay their tax.
Right, and we pay our taxes for those too, because we benefit from that, and everyone else does too. What I'm saying is that it should be, if you need to raise taxes for fire hydrants, that it should be spread over more people than just the people who are closest to the hydrant.
The bill costs.
That's why I recommended a lower millage rate
The costs, they've been cut in half.
to temper.
So everybody in the township would pay.
Because we're paying for the taxes to maintain, we're paying for the cost to maintain some of the roads outside of our development. And they don't include our roads.
Well, listen, I'm sure it'll come up again next year, and in the meantime, you can somehow save $24 or whatever it might be. And I don't know, anybody here can't afford it, but anyways, Leonard, you had something briefly now. This is the last speaker. We're gonna move on.
My name is Leonard Auerbach, 273 Prospect Circle. Thank you for letting me make some comments. I have a list of certain residents have asked questions. Does the township have a code covering the placement of fire hydrants in the areas of its jurisdiction that must be followed by all developers? Does this code state the distance or the density of hydrants within a community? Who assesses that a particular property is within 780 feet of a hydrant? And
We'll take these one at a time. In other words, we can ask that question very quickly.
Which question did you want to start with?
who assesses that a particular property is within the 780 feet?
We were provided for the York Water Company. If you look on the screen, they provided us with the latitude and longitude of their hydrants. They imported that into their GIS, and they have the capability of identifying any parcels that are within 780 feet. So that was done through our engineering firm.
And the second question, then.
And you say they have, and
Yes.
but is it accurate?
We believe it's accurate. I know there were some questions raised, and that's why I asked that if someone believes it's not, they need to bring that information forward to us so we can investigate it.
My wife brought up about grades.
Okay, and I understand that, but I didn't have a chance to look at that right now. So she provides that information to me. We'll research it and get back to you.
How will the tax bill reflect the additional tax? Is it going to be a separate line item?
Yes.
Since the financial support for firefighting came from the township general fund paid by tax base as a whole, why is any additional fire hydrant fee not paid for in the same way?
Because the fire tax goes to the 3 fire companies that serve Shrewsbury Township.
Okay. Now, are all the fire hydrants installed in the township fully operational?
To the best of my knowledge, they are.
Okay. All right. If someone lives in the county, in the township, I'm from Boulder County, so, you know, I was born in Pennsylvania County, so. If someone's on the border, yeah, and there's a fire, they're gonna go to Glen Rock or to New Freedom, and it's right there, they're gonna go to that. Same way, New Freedom's gonna go right into the township and use one of their fire hydrants if that's the closest. Am I correct?
You're saying if New Freedom Fire Company comes into Shrewsbury Township?
No. If there's a fire in New Freedom,
Okay.
and the closest hydrant is a township hydrant, a Shrewsbury Township hydrant, they will go to that fire hydrant. Am I correct?
If there was hydrants outside those limits, probably, yes, but there are none in that area.
Well, there is, what you're saying is there are none where another township would be closer to one of our fire hydrants?
Yeah, excuse me, if you look here, the only one that I would see as a possibility would be maybe in this area, Glen Rock,
Okay.
or the possibility in this general area right here with Shrewsbury Borough. Railroad boroughs you see in New Freedom Borough, there are no hydrants in the township.
Okay. So just like the school system, we're tied in together. And what's happening now is where you pay, but if I need it, and I'm not paying, I still can use it. Okay? So my insurance is there. You're within the 2,000 feet. So why pay for the tax when I can get it? You know, pay for that when I can, it is still there for me. So instead of dividing the community, we should have left it alone. We should have left it alone. I mean, it's like, I'll give you an analogy. We now have a
That's not right, you get 5 minutes.
Okay, well, I just want to say this one thing. We have a 10-cent gas tax now, they just put on. Okay? So what's going to happen around here is I'm going to go over to Maryland. I'm buying my gas over Maryland, where it's $2 and...
24 cents, that's right.
Well, no, it dropped, today on the commodity market, it dropped below $50.
It's $22.24.
Let's move on.
We got a long meeting today.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say, is that, you know, you should have either done that or been honest and increasing the millage for everyone.
Thank you, okay, that's all I can.
Oh, well, you let them speak, I'm going to speak now, sir.
You sit there, you know,
Absolutely. On a few things, what that gentleman just said, I get what he said about spreading the cost out to everybody, but what about the residents that are paying for the traffic lights? That's not spread out through the community, so when you go in their neighborhood that has a traffic light, not traffic light, a light bulb, not traffic light, a regular street light on their property, that's not farmed out to everybody. They have to pay for that. So when you go into their neighborhood, you're getting use of that light that they're paying for.
Well, I'm willing to pay for it.
I'm willing to
But
pay
they're
for it.
doing it, so, no, excuse me,
I'm
I'm
not,
not talking.
I know you aren't, John, I'm trying to protect you from the gentleman.
Oh, no, that's all right, I don't need protection.
You don't, you didn't think.
I have, no, I don't. I have a question for,
You're in pay
Okay,
time.
okay. That's enough.
Come on, how's that?
Good
I have
deal.
excuse me, I have a question for Tony. Tony, do you, still no longer allow solicitation in your community that you live in?
Arlene, what's the question?
The question is, do you still not allow solicitation in the community that you live in?
You do not have solicitation.
Okay, I'm just wondering, I don't know, I'm just kind of disturbed by a lot of people here from your development. Because I recall 5 years ago when I ran, Mr. Solomon and Mr. Shuckman set up a meeting for myself, him, and Sue Fox to come over to your development to meet all your residents so they can come out and vote up for us, which was great because your whole development, that's where we got the most votes from. And excuse me, I'm speaking right now. So I just find it funny that everybody is here from this development and that Sue and Paul, the two people that were there with me, are supporting not to have this tax, but then all you people are here now. I just found it funny that you don't allow solicitation, but you allowed us in your community.
But Paul was not there.
No, Paul set it up. I said Paul set it
I
up.
didn't set it
Paul
up.
and Laurel set it up.
It was a private meeting.
Correct, but
That's
spoke
right, and I
with you.
did individually.
Correct, spoke with you.
I
Tony.
didn't let it speak. It was
Of
not.
course,
It
you wanted to speak.
was
You wanted
not
to interrupt me.
Paul. I was the one who came to my house, as a matter of fact.
I know I came to your house, but Paul explained to me at a meeting that I had with him, Earl, Jeff Brown's office, that Tony Auerbach set this up. So I'm wondering if you, and you just admitted, if we don't allow solicitation, then why does this happen in your community? Of course it does. Of course it is. But don't we see one side here, folks? What's the matter with this?
Are you upset? Are you upset because I questioned you?
No, I'm upset that here you got the votes on your side, and here all you people are.
Cynthia, you're
But you
out.
don't allow solicitation, but I was at his house. Please be quiet. He just admitted that I was at his house for solicitation, but you don't allow that.
Please don't leave her.
No, I don't have any friends.
Please don't
You
leave
don't,
her.
stick that thing out of my face.
All right, let's move on.
So disrespectful.
Ordinance and
Yes, you
resolution.
are. Have a nice evening, folks.
I apologize. I apologize.
Don't apologize for me. Let's keep going. We're not done yet.
Next time I'm looking at this ordinance.
I can tell you, our committee is going to make sure that you will not be reelected.
She will think I'm stupid to do this again?
Nice meeting.
Oh, the corrupt politicians, are you kidding me?
Ordinance is.
People that don't give permits for their ponds and we call them a catch basin?
Ordinance number.
Yeah, I want to sit on this board again.
Ordinance
Hypocrite.
number 2015-01.
Get this now, or I'll make sure you get this.
Sign ordinance amendments. Todd.
Yes.
No, I'm honest.
As a result of the application by AT&T, we discovered that P13D was omitted from the original ordinance, which is the main gist for this ordinance amendment. And then some of the other things were mainly housekeeping items, so we don't really say more. Everyone has a copy of
This is
that.
housekeeping. I'm going to ask for a motion to amend the sign ordinance to include what?
So moved.
I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Item B on the 10. We all voted.
I will vote yes, but there are things in here that I do not agree with. As an advertising billboard, a flat wall sign on a farm building. So, but I am voting yes to amend it because we've got the sign on this pretty messed up.
Okay.
My guess.
Bill? Aye. No. I voted no. 4 ayes. Next item is intergovernmental agreement, which we have to redo. Todd, would you just?
Yeah, I may ask this, I may pass this off to the solicitor because he's familiar with this more than I am.
I'll try to keep it brief.
Yeah, thank you.
You may remember that we went through a process where several municipalities went together in Burke County to create a
Consortium of municipalities.
right, to deal with stormwater runoff. Well, there was a lot of attorney input from a lot of different municipalities, and one of the things that they said was if DEP doesn't approve this consortium, by the end of the year, then the agreement will expire. Well, the DEP doesn't move very fast. They haven't approved it. So now what we want to do is amend that agreement to extend it so that the group can continue until DEP gets their act together and approves the consortium. That's what we're doing.
What are your motions to that effect?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion?
I vote aye.
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 All right, next item, under subdivision and land development, East Coast Land 2.
Yeah, everyone has a copy of their security for the public improvements. It's been reviewed by Shrewsbury Borough's engineer as well as the Township engineer, and both engineers are in agreement to reduce that amount to $30,168.60.
I'll entertain a motion to approve that reduction.
I'll second.
The call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Next item, East Squared Properties. They want to extend their time before we have to approve their plan or react to their plan because of the poor development market, basically.
The only real issue that they have to deal with is the transferable development.
Right. And the time extension will be until,
At minimum, I would recommend 6 months.
okay.
Why don't you just give them a year instead of them having to have this come up every 5
I'm
minutes?
fine with that.
I say give it a year,
Is that your motion?
yes. 1 year.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? I think it's a challenge. I think 6 months is fine.
All right, whatever.
I'll second 6
I
months.
don't care.
I'll call for the vote.
Aye.
Did we make the motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Very
6 months.
Time
Who
extension, 6
made
months.
the motion?
I made the motion, I
Okay,
second.
okay, good, okay. Aye.
Aye. 5 ayes. Next item is the Fox Van Loris subdivision plan. It's been before us many times before.
We're waiting on the DEP, so I didn't even want it on the thing, but go ahead.
I'm gonna make a motion that we would approve it, provided there is a dwelling rate assigned to the accessory dwelling per the staff's recommendation and planning, or the staff's recommendation.
I'll second that.
You have a motion, a second, any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to state that,
Can I have a clarification?
okay,
You talk about the development rate, will that also include the Davidson, the engineer comments?
yes,
Outstanding, okay.
I'd like to make the state, as far as discussion, is what I'd like to say is, if this doesn't, I'd like to say that if this doesn't receive doesn't pass, I will be making another motion to accept this plan as presented. And we all know if that fails, this will be denied.
Not true.
If it is a 5 vote.
If it's a top vote, then it will be denied. It will have to go back to the beginning.
Say it again.
Is that correct? Mr.
No.
Excuse me, I'm talking to the solicitor, not you.
Mr. Reynolds says is correct.
Okay.
So if you're saying that it keeps being a 2 to 2 to 2 to 2, you're technically denying my plan.
No.
That's what you're saying?
No. Only under certain conditions. Only if Jeff, you want to...
If I make a motion, if this fails, and I make another motion to approve as presented, and if that does not pass, if it is a tie vote, it's an automatic denial, and you will be going back to the beginning.
Where's that in the planning code?
Well, it's
Or is this another rule that
It's
we
illegal.
use now?
It's illegal.
Okay,
Where is it?
I'm
Mr.
gonna call...
Bob, I'm asking you a question.
Let's please take the motions in.
Okay.
We have a motion, and I believe Jeff, your motion was seconded by
Correct.
Cynthia. I'm going to call for that vote. Bill?
I'll vote aye.
You can't vote, sir. I'll vote no.
I'll vote aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the motion carries.
So what does that say?
It means that you're approved, your plan is approved,
If I give up a development right, but that isn't how my plan was
with the
presented.
development right attached to your.
My plan was not presented as such, sir.
That's what we just voted on.
That's
Yeah,
what
I read a one vote.
You don't even live in the township.
Yes,
You're
I do.
voting
That's
on
enough.
it.
That's enough of this.
I am so sick of this place. Oh, my
Then
Lord.
leave.
Enough of this. Both of you, stop it.
Unbelievable. Okay, thanks,
I
Bill.
don't accept it.
Thanks. I'm not accepting it. See y'all.
Okay, well, that matter's done.
Okay, thanks, Bill, appreciate it.
Okay, the next item, reports. And that's be as big as you can.
Yeah. that's
I
good.
admire your endurance out there and your patience. Good for me. Studies that period, either, I'll tell you. Maybe it's harder. Todd, manager's report.
I'll be brief. Gave you information, anyone that's interested in attending the 93rd Annual PSATS Conference in April, let me know within the next month or so for registration. The other thing is the zoning ordinance amendments, work orders, York County Planning Commission. They have their meeting January 26th. We should get comments back from them prior to that time. I will probably attend, I'm sure Paul probably will attend that meeting. And we have our public hearing set up for 6 p.m. February 4th to review those comments from York County Planning Commission. That is a public meeting, and we'll be here prior to the regular board meeting. And the last item is, did I give everyone this LST list? If not, I'll get that to you. But we like to periodically, the local services tax, which is a $52 tax for businesses, self-employed individuals. I have the current list. I'll see that everyone gets that. If you can review it, if there's anyone should be added or deleted, let me know. And that's the end of my report.
Everybody got something that I believe, didn't they?
I'm not sure I got that to the others. I gave that to you before the meeting, so if you don't have it, I'll make sure you get it here next day or two.
The sanitary store, the update on Tyson.
Construction started, it was the week of December 16th. They're working along Pleasant Valley Road to the rear of those properties that abut the Pador Street. And other than that, everything else from the report is carrying with improvements months.
And the people being served in this phase 3, pay the full freight.
Correct.
Okay,
Excluding their grants.
yes.
Okay.
Next item, solicitor's report, the event report, Attorney Bob.
Mr. Chairman, other than the memorandums I already provided to you, I have no report.
Thank you. You have a copy of the zoning officer's report, and he's also involved. He's also our sewage enforcement officer, and he gives us a report. It just lists what he's done as far as enforcement and approving permits and so forth. There's no need to comment on that. I guess if somebody raises an issue. The maintenance report, again, it's our road crew, our park crew. They indicate what they've done over the last month. Any comments on that? Engineer's report is in your packet as well. It's pretty straightforward. Any comments? And, Planning Commission, we have a copy of their minutes. Any comment on that? Okay, supervisor comments. Anybody have any comments? This is the time where we get a chance to speak. As you witnessed last month, it was very exciting, actually. I want to make one comment, and that's this. Over the period of time I've served here on the board will oftentimes, after much discussion and reflection, will vote on and make a decision. And then sometimes the minority, maybe a member or maybe two members who joined in the discussion that led up to making the decision, they aren't happy with the final decision. So they go out and they recruit people to come to the meeting and oppose what the board decided to do. Now, I'm not saying that's illegal, it's not illegal, but I mean, I just get tired of that sometimes. And I'll be very frank with you. Sometimes there's a good aspect to that too. But I get tired of that. I'm just confessing honestly, you know, it gets old after a while. I think if the board makes a decision and that person or persons involved in that decision making, they have plenty of chance to let their thoughts be known. And
if you people come to the meetings, you'll know more, and people won't have to try and tell
yeah,
what's
that's
going on.
true. That's
Now, there
true.
is a zoning
Could you let
amendment.
Paul finish? I know what he's saying.
Yeah, I know you do. But there will be a very serious meeting in February about zoning in this township, so just make sure you come.
Could I ask a question?
That's just the problem I'm alluding to. We had well over a year, we have been deliberating with our staff and others on these zoning amendments.
No, you haven't. You weren't allowed to see them until November.
We haven't had any input. We used
The fact
to,
is,
we
This
used to.
started over a year ago with our staff. And I was involved as a member of the planning commission with the staff, so it's gone. And we went through this long ordeal. Then it came to the planning commission, then it came before Supervisors. And we made a decision as to what the package would consist of. And now it's before the York County Planning Commission for their comments. But I know people are going out working and saying we aren't happy with what's there, and we're going to have a lot of a confrontational meeting regarding the zoning amendments. And I think that's okay, but as far as the board members are concerned, I think when the board makes a decision, the members of the board have to stick with that decision. They can fight like hell when it's before the board, but once the board makes a decision, I don't like going out and undercutting the board. I don't like it at all.
I don't think it's undercutting, I think
It
it's
is
informing
undercutting.
the people. You can think what you want. If you think I undercut people by letting you know what's going on in the township, then I will stop doing that.
It's more than that.
Totally.
It's more than that.
Totally.
Susan, it's more than that.
You have to
It's
follow
more than that.
the minutes, follow the website.
And that's what you do. But, I mean, it's so disconcerting that after all this, after a lot of thought and effort and discussion on the board level, that members of the board would go out and try to undercut the majority's decision. I don't like it. I can't stop it. Do it. I can.
I'm not saying another word to any of these.
Well, you just
You
did
come
that.
to the meetings and whatever happens, happens. Okay?
Okay, next item.
I'd like to make, to everybody that's here about the fire hydrant tax, let me explain my point a little bit. Let's say Pennsylvania enacted a law to where every well in the township had to be inspected once a year. There's going to be a lot of cost to that for the residents. Now, my question is, do I make everybody pay that, or is that paid out of the general fund, or is that paid out of a special tax that is taxed to only the people with the well? Now, if I was to put that into the general fund, every one of you folks out here that live on city water is going to be in here complaining, and it wouldn't be fair. Now, that's just, you know, and far as this, if this was to happen, the tax would go on to people that have the well. It's no different. I'd use no different analogy on taxing you people with the hydrants as I would in a case like that. I just want you to understand, it's not an attack on you people. It's just what I feel is right in my mind. If something happened out in the ag zone, I would tax them people, not you folks. So I just wanted to state that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the board have anything to say? I'll just follow up my own comments. You know, I think people have to be informed. I think there are situations where we should go out of our way to make sure they're well informed. It's like you've got to meet us halfway too. You know, you got to be engaged to some degree or other, so you know without being told what's going on. I don't know quite how to say that exactly, but I think you understand what I'm saying. But the point I was trying to make is that if a member or two members of the board go out and try to undo what the board has done by campaigning in the township, that gets old after a
It's
while.
not campaigning.
Whatever. Whatever we're going to use. All right, with that aside, and anybody want to comment on what Jeff and I just said?
Yeah, I'd just like to address what Jeff said. Other people are getting some benefit from these items. We were put on sewer, we pay for that sewer, I pay my sewer bill every month. I don't ask anybody else to pay for that sewer. That's strictly for me.
Okay,
Some people will benefit from these items that aren't paid. That's-
just let me say this. I understand your point, that's the way you feel. Also understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I do.
And that's all I'm asking is that, you know, I know you're not gonna always agree with me. I'm not gonna always agree with you. But I try to do what I feel is right for the township. I have lived in this township for 54 years, and I intend to live the rest of my life in this township. And I just try to do what is right for this township. I have been in the ag zone all my life, and I'm just, you know, it wasn't an attack on any of the people that have hydrants. It's what I feel is the proper thing to do. The usage, the people that use it is the ones that, you know, and like I said, we would extend it out beyond the 780 feet, but the MPC says 780 feet. So.
Can I ask one question? What
Yes,
is the
sure.
most, I know this,
Would you-
I saw the chart,
Would you-
Shirley, I'm
would you
sorry,
state
Shirley
your
Simpson,
name and-
bad knee, please don't make me stand up.
Okay, you have to-
Shirley Simpson, Fiscal Church Road. I saw the chart, and I've done a little research on this. What is the maximum millage rate that could be charged
For the
for the
hydrant,
hydrants? Is it two mils?
2 mils,
And
yes.
that would be $400 a year on a $200,000 house?
Well, we have some examples up on the board of what.
Well, that was compared to other townships, he was comparing it. We are the lowest millage rate in York County, as far as townships and boroughs. So we ought to be happy for that fact.
You didn't identify yourself.
Yes, I did.
You did? No, I'm talking about Dave.
Now, the Dave James, Parks Lake.
I got it. It's pretty good. All right, Shirley.
But I'm asking Todd because I thought I heard,
Based on that average assessment of 403,000, I think it's 570, comes out to $407 at the full 2 mils.
so it could be much more. And you would have the right, according to the state of Pennsylvania, to do that, but you chose not to. Right? Is that how I read it? Is that how I understand it?
Yeah, that's a max.
The board decided on,
But aren't you limited to whatever expense you have? In other words, you have the 18,000 and change. You're limited to only bringing in the 18,000 and change.
that seemed to be logical, Earl.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's what the law says.
Yeah,
And if you take it more, you can't spend it.
otherwise it
Right.
makes no sense.
You can only spend one time.
So anyway, so if you're a developed community, you could be much higher. Okay, old business. Advance development rights regarding Sue Fox and Jeff Van Horst. This is a situation where they get, whatever rights you have left on your farm, you get a document which shows they can be transferred. Would you add to that if you want to?
If I may. The plan was approved tonight contingent upon the applicant agreeing that the excess building right is assigned to the property. I think the appropriate thing for you to do
Yeah,
is
we
table
did
this,
agree.
table this request to see exactly what's going to happen.
Agreed. We all agree on that.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to table.
Second.
Aye.
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 Sell the grader. Township is selling the only grader we've had for a long time. It's not being used. Would you give a little more background to that, please, Todd?
Yeah, this request actually came from our maintenance foreman. We have a grader, he said it's been used about one time in the last 4 years. It's sitting out at the shop, we're spending time and money to maintain it. We did some pricing on it, and in our 2015 budget, we put a budget amount of $25,000, what we expected that we could possibly get for the sale of that. It went out for bid, it was advertised for bid, and it was placed on a website called municipbid.com. Only municipalities can place items on there, but anyone can bid on the items. The starting bid, we started out at $5,000. After 51 bids, we closed at $22,984, so I'm going to say $23,000. And as I mentioned, the budget that we hoped to get was $25,000. So we're, excuse me, about 2017 or so less than what we had anticipated.
I make a motion, we accept the amount.
You recommend we accept it, but we're tired of it. I'll second the motion. Any discussion?
Aye.
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 All right, exit 4 improvements update, this should be brief.
Yeah, the meeting, if you remember from last month, they were hoping to try to have a meeting before Christmas. That did not happen. They're in the process of now trying to set up a meeting for January, so hopefully by February I'll have something to report. The other thing is I put just a cover page in your packet from TRG regarding the transportation study for the intersection of East Forest Avenue, which is 851, and Wolf Road. There's going to be some improvements made in conjunction with Johnston Construction. And it's a thick document, so it is here. If anyone wishes to review it, I'll have it in the office.
And that includes the public. If you want to come to the office and read this in the office, you're welcome to do that. Next item. Fred.
I was going to say that the next item, the trash waivers, you have copies of those requests. We went out and verified that all 4 of those properties are vacant.
I make a motion, we accept all 4 at the same time.
Second motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Finally, if you have any strength left, any endurance out there, this is your last chance for a public comment. Yes, sir.
Okay, Mike Lucas, 229 Prospect. A few years ago, we were given a phone number to call in emergencies. Rather than 911, it was 428-1011. Is that still in effect?
How's the state?
That's the state police number.
We were told that we would get more of an emergency response if we call that 428.
That's direct, that is directly to the state police barracks up
Okay,
there.
as opposed to calling 911
And then they have to transfer you up to there.
up to there. So,
It's only a matter of about 2 minutes, because I just did it recently. And it was only probably an additional 2 minutes to call 911, but I could have called the state police direct had I had that number. But if you have to look the number up, you're probably just as well off with
it
911.
defeats the whole purpose of a 911 emergency.
It does.
Is there any way that those two can be tied together so that we don't have to call the 7-digit number?
If you call 911, they'll transfer you. They transfer you.
Yeah.
They will actually put you straight through. You don't have to call the state police. But if you call that, if you happen to have your cell phone you have programmed, that would save you. But till you do all that, just hit 911, they'll transfer you. I called twice in one night, and they transfer me, no questions asked. I just say state police, and they automatically patch you through. They're real good about it. In fact, I was amazed. I'm out in the township, and I was amazed at how quickly they were there that night.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks, Jeff. Any other comments? Well, you sure now, this is the last call.
You don't want any more comment.
Well, I don't know.